Thank you, everybody, for joining here. We're just going to give our attendees a minute or so to log in, and then we'll get started. Okay, well, thank you, everybody, for attending our Unit Budget Strategic Budgeting webinar and demo. We appreciate you taking the time to learn more. We're really excited to be launching this new product built right onto our budgeting platform. So I'm joined today by Doug Fletcher, the Manager Consulting for Service Delivery, as well as Bob Cortland, Senior Solutions Engineer in Sales. Doug will be providing an overview of strategic budgeting, and Bob will be showcasing a live demo of the strategic budgeting offering, and he'll help answer any questions. As a note, you're able to add any questions to the Q&A section below or in the chat section here in Zoom. So today we'll be talking about strategic budgeting. Why is it complicated? Connecting your strategic plan to your budget. Some examples of strategic planning. We'll show how it's an end-to-end budget solution. And then just introducing unit budget, strategic budgeting. Bob will be doing the demo, and at the end, we'll have some time for questions and answers. As just a reminder, you can add any questions in the Q&A or in the chat section here at the bottom of the Zoom webinar. So Doug, why don't you take it away?
Oh, thank you, Paul. All right, so let's start out with what exactly is a strategic plan? Well, it's a multi-year roadmap that defines the direction and involves decisions about allocating resources to pursue that direction. It involves setting long-term goals and identifying and prioritizing objectives to meet those goals. And if we were to look at traditional budgeting, this relies on historical data. It's purely monetary, and it looks at short-term goals. This makes it challenging to align with a long-term vision and any strategic priorities that might be outlined in a long-term strategic plan. Additionally, it often is a very time-consuming process to go through an incremental budgeting procedure, and it can enforce siloed decision-making, and it can potentially, without good use of software, be error-prone. So let's talk about a strategic budget. Well, this is where we have a financial plan that is aligned with an organization's strategic goals and objectives. It prioritizes spending to support the achievement of these strategic objectives, ensuring that financial resources are allocated in a way that maximizes their impact on the organization's long-term success. So why would we do this? Well, one of the most fundamental arguments for strategic budgeting lies in the fact that most people are bad at understanding numbers, pure dollars, FTEs. Financial literacy is not great among citizens in the United States. However, the average person can really understand the simplicity of a pie chart where we show how spending aligns with our values. When it comes to understanding how we spend money, it's a lot easier to say that 75% of the budget is dedicated to improving pedestrian safety than it would be to say that the transportation department has a $200 million budget this year, with the majority of that lying in personnel services accounts. And that intuitively makes sense to us. If you were to go through the budget of the city that you live in and read that Parks was getting 25 million more this year than last year, you might wonder why and what that money is actually going towards. It's much easier to communicate the value of what we get for the spent dollar. It also resonates more with the average person because tying the dollar to what we are trying to achieve is more emotional. People can resonate with a goal to be achieved much more than they can resonate with an abstract number in an expenditure report. If you tell somebody that 1/3 of their tax dollars are being spent on communal services like libraries, parks, community centers, and recreational programs, that's something that just really intuitively makes sense to people. So the role of the financial officer is not just to track the spending of money. It's to define the value provided to the public by spending dollars. We're not merely accountants categorizing dollars and pushing them around and tracking where they go. We're budgeters that are tasked with ensuring value is created, enabled, reported on, and that we preserve the value of the tax dollars that we spend in the community. For too long, the incremental budget process has been the tradition within the United States. We group the line items. We ensure that we're maintaining essential service levels from the previous year based on what we have been spending, and we occasionally make new requests. This means that spending is very often a backwards-looking process where we are looking at what we have spent and letting that define what we are going to do for the new year. This is not a forward-looking process that attempts to reflect on what has worked and how we might want to shift focus based upon the critical priorities that people have identified for the new year. When we're trying to determine where our money should go, we need to have a vision about what sort of future we are trying to build with the dollars that we're spending. That's where the strategic plan model comes in. We want to define that vision on multiple levels. We need a master plan to define a long-term direction for the community. We need a strategic plan for our departments to define how their short-term goals will contribute to the long-term goal. And this will help to guide year over year what our operations need to be to ensure that we stay focused on our long-term priorities. At the lowest level, we need to tie this to the fiscal plan so that we can indicate year over year how our dollars are achieving our strategic initiatives, and then potentially shift things around. So let's take a quick look at an example of a master plan. This is going to define some broad areas of governance that will help to guide funding over a long period of time. Our goals will cover the core human needs that are typically within the remit of the local government structure. In most cases, they'll line up with the broader mission that several of your departments are already attempting to achieve. They often at the high goal level will be so general that it will be hard for any individual to argue that it's not a good goal to spend money on. Once we have a goal, we're going to break that down to some general objectives that we would work towards achieving. This is going to be things that most of our departments could help to contribute to. These will feel like very broad programs where there might be a large number of projects beneath that program that will help to achieve it. So for example, to improve fiscal responsibility, we might want to upgrade our technological assets. Well, we might want to develop a program to analyze efficiencies within our departments first. We might want to coordinate with local jurisdictions on shared projects. So we're identifying things that can be contributed to by multiple different departments. Now, once we have those goals and we have our objectives, now we can define more specific initiatives. This is where it starts to feel more like a specific project that we might assign to a particular department to help with. For example, If we want to improve indoor-outdoor air quality, we might need to update HVAC systems in municipal buildings. Or we might provide subsidies to citizens to upgrade the equipment in their homes. We might generally want to reduce ozone emissions using a set of our city bus assets. That objective can be contributed to potentially many different departments, but these initiatives start to feel like more of something that would be assigned to the utilities department for municipal buildings, or the human services department to offer grants, or the transportation department to reduce emissions in their buses. So there are a lot of municipalities and jurisdictions that are already doing this, that have been doing this for a long time, and have special departments that are dedicated for this, special reports. They've already implemented these strategic plans within their budgets, and they align all their fiscal plans with strategic plans. We have an example on the screen of City of Arvada, Colorado, and we can see where they have defined that very high level goal, safe community strategic results. They are defining individual goals that are going to meet that goal. And then they have some initiatives that a particular department can execute on to contribute to that objective. So ideally, if we're doing things at that low level, that's going to roll up to the higher level, and we will be meeting our long-term goals. So one of the great things about the strategic budgeting module is that it fits into an environment that already has a lot of functionality built into it to support other areas of budgeting. We're able to tie our strategies to operating fiscal plans, capital plans, as well as all of the labor costs. That means we're also tied into our built-in workflow, the security, the reporting, other tools such as continuity schedules, calculation templates, allocations. We're also able to integrate the strategies that we develop into those modules into other related products like OpenBook and BudgetBook Studio. We're able to build out a more cohesive framework for budgeting that captures all of the elements that GFOA best practice guidance recommends that we consider, and work that into our annual budget books. So let's talk a bit about what is included in the strategic budgeting module. Well, first off, we offer a data model that will bolt onto our existing configuration to allow for strategic budgeting to be included in a way that plays well with all of the other existing functionality that our tool has to offer. The model is very robust, and it's also flexible. So that means it can be implemented all at once or with a phased approach. Also, it can be adjusted to match the hierarchy that you currently have set up with multiple levels, or a more flat structure. That means that whatever we work to implement into the system initially can be adjusted later to incorporate a more expansive view of strategic budgeting if you're not able to fit in all the pieces right away. We'll also provide a lot of training and support that covers a broad range of material around strategic budgeting. If you already have a strategic plan, we'll work to configure our model to match what you have, as well as how to build it out further. If you do not have a strategic plan, we'll educate you on how the model is structured, how it matches guidance and best practices, how we recommend you utilize it, how to implement the strategic budgeting in your jurisdiction in a way that works well with your existing procedure for gathering fiscal requests from your departments. We'll also provide training on some of the associated features, such as ad hoc views, smart reports, dashboards, open book visualizations, all of those other things that come with the unit budget product. Now, we will also be offering different options for how to implement the strategic budgeting module, with a self-guided option, as well as an option that does a lot more hand-holding through the implementation process if you need it. One of those options will also include some additional configuration to OpenBook for data sets and visualizations, as well as for BudgetBook Studio for scaffolding templates that will help to build out the sections of the budget book that outlines your strategic plans. So thank you so much for listening. There's been a lot of thought and effort that's gone into this. I think we started work on this project maybe about 3 years ago, and I'm going to turn it over to demo portion where we can walk through what some of the data entry will look like, how it ties to the budgets and FTEs, as well as some of the ad hoc views, smart reports, and dashboards that will be included to display all of your strategic plan data.
Great. Well, thank you very much, Doug. Hello, everyone. I'm just going to walk you through an example of this data model being applied to a Questiga environment. Sorry, Euna budget. I have to correct myself there. And this, as Doug said, is extremely configurable. We are using an example in this case of a city or a town that might be looking to apply this strategic budgeting piece to Questiga to their existing Questiga instance. So starting with the plan itself, this is an example of a multi-layered plan. So this is kind of a configuration where we start at that high goal level. That might be the 3 main initiatives in this case of our strategic plan. So each of these high-level goals are going to break down into the specific objectives and initiatives that are feeding into this particular goal. So in this case, we just have 3 to keep things fairly simple. And this is going to be the first or the highest level of our strategic plan. But filtering down from here, you'll see the link to strategic plan level 2, which will take us to the subsections of each of those higher goals. And then you can see that we can get a little bit more granular in terms of what we're actually promoting. Within that civic excellence goal, for example, we have both environmental health and high-performing government. Each of these are going to be specific objectives that we're looking to hit. And then within each of these objectives, we want to tie the granular initiatives that are being used to support all of these different elements. And then those roll-ups happen back to level 1. So we have that granular breakdown where we have goals with their sub-objectives, with their sub-initiatives. And down the rabbit hole we can go, which in this case has 3 layers. But as Doug mentioned, you may have 1, 2, 5 layers to your plan. And each of these sub-layers are going to do those roll-ups, but they're also going to give us the opportunity to start linking spending in the actual budget lines or positions that make up the budget and tying them back to this kind of network of strategic planning. And each of these, if we want to look at examples, I can go into any of these particular initiatives and actually see that breakdown between the tree of strategy that we have within this particular data model example. So if I'm looking at livability and social health, for example, advancing equity might be one of the goals within my neighborhood livability and social health objective. And you can see that these all link. And this goes all the way back to our main pillar of community in this case. Each level of the plan gives us the opportunity to layer in descriptions, narrative information, and these can also be used to actually show for my 3.14 initiative, what are all the individual budget lines which are being used to support this particular line item? Are there any positions attached to this particular line item? You'll see that this ties back to all the relevant areas within your budgeting solution that exists today, whether it's across the operating or capital modules or the personnel side to Questiga. Now, going into an example of a costing center, we'll be able to see that the budget owners can also take advantage of being able to layer this information into their existing budgets. So looking at an example of an IT budget, you can see that all the positions within this budget actually correspond to that level 3 of the strategic plan, which are the specific initiatives that are being used to feed into our objectives in this case. So each of my positions could be assigned to one of the elements within the strategic plan. This is more for the personnel side of things, but if we look at the budget lines themselves, those can also be linked to these particular initiatives and goals. And you can see that we brought in the column strategic plan level 3, and this all links back together. So this $13,000 of overtime is part of a specific initiative in this case And then later on, by being able to do this level of granular linking between budget and strategy, we can do all sorts of things in terms of showing the data or presenting the information in different formats. So anyone paying attention at the very beginning of this demonstration would have seen a dashboard that actually contains several reports. So we can provide a section of reports that will show things like how many dollars are we spending on our plan? What are the budget dollars and what do those link into? And anyone who's familiar with Questica or Euna budget is going to be familiar with all the ways that we can tailor these different layouts and express this different information, whether it's looking at the dollars spent per year, whether it's looking at the FTEs, or whether we want to take all of this information and make those different ad hoc views, which may be used for different types of reports, including even public-facing ones. And flipping over to our open book product and our brand new budget book studio feature, this will also allow you to create a compelling visual presentation that could be public facing and complement your existing website. And in this example, you can see a strategic document, which may be available to be edited and configured to your own specific needs. And you'll see that all the different subsections of the strategic document are available so that you can bring in things like multimedia presentations, as well as visualizations that are being driven directly from this new strategy module. So extremely compelling way to present the information of your strategic plan and then link it either into your formal budget book offering, or in this case, a specific document related to the strategic plan at large. So at a very high level, that's what this model is intended to do. We're embedding extra layers of functionality to be able to link your strategic plan to the actual spending within the budget that makes that up. And again, this is a very city example, but this would apply broadly to all of our customers, regardless of your kind of configuration and setup. Okay, looking at the chat, I don't see any questions. Please feel free to jump in if you have any at this point. I'm going to stop sharing and pass things back to our team.
Okay, thanks very much for that, Bob. Just a reminder, if there are any questions, please feel free to add them to the Q&A or the chat here at the bottom. If you would like some more details, sort of in terms of pricing or next steps or process, you can contact us in one of two ways. We have our email address here, hello@eunasolutions.com, or you can email your customer success manager directly. And we'd love to have more conversations with you to see how we can help you. I do have a question here for Doug or Bob. Or there's a few coming in, but could you share how performance metrics are tied to the strategic plan objectives? And that's in from Leslie.
Yeah, I can do that. So we are using the statistical ledger in Questica to track the performance measures themselves. So let's say tons of gravel dumped for paving roads. And a particular cost center, let's say the roads and signage cost center within the transportation department, would be able to track what their targets were for tons of gravel. And then they could also track what their actual tons used was. Each one of those performance metrics would roll up to a initiative, like let's say improving roads, which would then roll up to a goal, which was like improving infrastructure, or an objective that's like improving infrastructure, and then would roll up to a goal that was something like improving the community, let's say. Very basic example, but the individual performance metrics would basically roll up to the initiatives and then the objectives and the goals. So you could view them at the low level or the high level.
Okay, thanks, Doug. We do have a few more questions, which is great. So one I can answer here is, can I have a copy of this email directly to me? And Stacy, yes, you can. It's probably best if you can. It might take us a few days just to get a recording together. So if you want to email your success manager, and we can make sure we get one to you. But I will make a note here to proactively get out to you, Stacy. And then we've got couple of questions that are similar. So allow me if I can try to join them, but we've got one from Adam. Not all operating budget line items may directly or entirely correlate to a single initiative. Can this be allocated or further broken out? And I think it's similar to a question from Shauna down below. Can budget line items be allocated to multiple strategic items based off a specific percentage? Maybe Doug, if you can talk about how we can budget items can be allocated amongst initiatives.
Sure. So there's actually three questions in the chat that are basically the same question. So in Questica, a budget line has an account and a dollar value. And you can put as many line items as you want into a single account. You could have 100 line items in the office supplies account. With our strategic plan model, you're going to identify an account and also a link to the strategic plan. So that allows you to allocate across multiple different initiatives. You would say that you have this one budget line that's associated with improving safety in the supplies account that's for $50. You have a second budget line that's associated with reducing homelessness that's in the supplies account for $50 and so on. So you can break out individual dollar values per initiative within the same account. If you have a 16, segment long account string, that's fine. We're just adding the strategic plan as another segment in the string. So you can break it out in as detailed a fashion as you would like. And that exists on the operating side, that exists for position allocations, that exists for capital, and that exists for your performance metrics as well. So if you want to itemize all of those things, you certainly can. There's nothing stopping you from doing that. If you want to instead lump sum things and say, well, I actually have, $5,000 in the supplies account, that's this one initiative, that's fine too. You have options. There was one more question here. How are actuals linked to a specific strategic plan? So oftentimes a financial system has actuals and the financial system has no understanding of a strategic plan. So the transaction is not going to be tied to a strategic plan. If we have an integration for actuals, obviously we can't bring that through. But you can enter in actuals manually into the system if you would like, in which case you can enter in an actuals transaction associated with a particular cost center and account and a strategic plan, and then enter in the dollar value associated with that. If you have strategic plans in the financial system, we can update your integration so that that comes through your integration.
Thanks for that, Doug. I'll leave it another minute or so if there are any questions. I just do want to remind you, if you do want some more information or want to talk to us directly, you can email us at hello@eunasolutions.com, or again, you can contact your customer success manager directly. It looks like that's the end of the question. Oh, we do have one more that popped in. Perfect. Do we need to be on the most recent version of Questica/Euna to implement the strategic plan?
No, you don't need to be on the most recent version, which is 2023.2. But we do have a recommended minimum version. Let me check here, which is 2023.1. We can make it work for the other versions, but you might not get the full set of assets. So for example, we have ad hoc views and smart reports and dashboards. All of those would be included as long as you're on 2023.1. But if you were on a previous version, likely it would be that we could provide the data model, but we would need to do additional configuration to set up views, smart reports, and dashboards that would work for that older version. Most of that has to do with the fact that we recently came out with the budget and projections feature. So that's a big difference between, versions like 2021 and 2023.
Okay, appreciate that answer, Doug. It does look like now that is the end of the question. So again, thank you everybody for joining us today. As I said, we're really excited about this product and would love to have some more conversations with you and continue to develop and help you with your strategic plans and your strategic models that you can share with your constituents. So feel free to email us at hello@unasolutions.com. Contact your customer success manager. Alternatively, we'd love to help you and I'd love to have these conversations. So thank you very much for attending and hopefully we'll talk to you all soon.